The Dominican is first of all a contemplative. St. Thomas Aquinas defines Dominican life as contemplari et aliis contemplata trade, which means to contemplate and give to others the fruits of your contemplation. Our life consists first of all in the contemplative life. So our life is very much like the life of the Benedictines. What's specific to the Dominican life is study. The Benedictines pray and work, while the Dominicans pray and preach. To do that, we have to study. I'm Father Albert. I'm a Dominican, traditional Dominican. I come from Western Canada, Saskatchewan. I found tradition, it's a long story, but I ended up going to Rome. And while I was there, I happened to meet a priest who had been sent to Rome to study because he refused to say the new Mass, and his congregation didn't know what to do with him, so they sent him there. And through him I got some books of Michael Davies, and I began to understand what was going on in the church. I came to know then the Society of St. Pius X, and I spent a year at Ridgefield, Connecticut. This was back in 1986, 87. And when I was there, I heard that there were some traditional Dominicans in France who were working with the Society of St. Pius X. So I visited them, and I ended up joining them in 1987. So I did my novitiate there, and I was ordained priest in 1994 by Bishop Follet in Winona. In 2006, I was sent to help Father Cyprian in New Mexico, in his monastery there. At the same time, I started to do some preaching in the States. And then later, I was sent to the novitiate of the the Sisters of the Society of St. Pius X in Minnesota to help there as well. I was there for 3 years, and at the same time, at the invitation of Father Rostand, I was going around preaching in the chapels, especially I preached a number of rosary missions, quite a few actually. I think I must have preached that mission 20 times in different places. Last November, with the permission of Bishop Follet and under the authority of Bishop de Galarreta, who assists the religious communities who work with the Society of St. Pius X, we made a new foundation in Belgium. It's in a little town called Steffishausen. It's right on the border with Germany. There was a traditional priest there who was persecuted by his bishop, and so he had to leave his church, and he bought a hotel in this little town, and he built a church onto the hotel, and he started a community there, a traditional community. A good number of the faithful in the town followed him. He died a couple years ago, and the people were looking for someone to take over for him, and we found out about them, so they invited us to come, and so we started this new foundation there last November 15th, the feast of St. Albert the Great, who was just down not too far away. He's buried in Cologne, a great Dominican. He's a teacher of St. Thomas Aquinas. So the 5 of us, there's 4 priests and 1 lay brother, we started a new Dominican foundation. We're preaching above all is what we're doing. For example, I'm here in the United States in order to preach. I was in Denver to preach a recollection, and I'm going to Ridgefield to preach a retreat. And back in Europe, 2 of our priests have been preaching retreats in Germany. And one of our priests just finished preaching a retreat for the Carmelites in Belgium. And another of our priests preaches a lot for the Dominican teaching sisters at Brignoles. Another thing we do besides preaching is writing. It's another form of preaching. I've written a number of articles for the Angelus over the years, and also spoken at the Angelus conference. And one of our priests, Father Jean Dominique, has written a number of books. Actually, one of his books on philosophy is used quite extensively in the schools of the society. One thing that maybe a lot of people don't know is that the different orders have a very particular way of participating in the life of their different orders. It's what's called the third order. The Franciscans have a third order, the Carmelites do, and we do as well. It started really with St. Francis, who had his friars, and then there were the sisters, the second order, and there were also lay people who wanted to follow St. Francis but still remain in the world. These are people who live in the world, and they're married usually, and have children, and they work, but they want to live a more religious life. And so these third orders are a way of allowing people to share in the spiritual life of a religious order while living in the world. So we've started a third order as well. We have a number of tertiaries who belong in a certain way to the Dominican. They're true Dominicans, and the Church has approved these third orders. It's even in canon law. And even when they die, they can be buried in the Dominican habit because they are true members of the order. They have a rule that they follow. They have this certain love for truth, a zeal to fight for the truth, and to contemplate the truth. It's funny, some people are born Dominicans. It's just the way they are. So we have this third order. They have a rule to follow. It's approved by the Church. And like all the rules approved by the Church, it means if you follow this rule, the Church guarantees that you will go to heaven. And so it's a very sure way to sanctify yourself.